Hello, this is Robert Sin, and we're getting into October now. Every October, November in the junior mining sector becomes tax loss, silly season for a number of junior mining stocks. And really, this is the best time of year for investors to deploy capital. I've been following this sector for more than 20 years. I've seen it time and time again. If you actually just never participated any other time of the year, aside from buying in Q4 and then taking profits at some point in the first half of the next year, I think your track record as an investor in the sector would generally be pretty damn good. And there's a lot of evidence for that. You can back test year after year. Usually the really beaten down names when it comes end of November or early December, they tend to have a pretty nice bounce into January and February of the subsequent year. So here we are, we're entering the teeth of tax law season. And one of the things I'll be doing over the next couple of months is throwing out some of my best ideas, some stocks that I think are really good opportunities. And so today we start with two Yukon gold stocks, Banyan Gold and Eagle Royalties. So two very different companies. Banyan has a 7 million ounce gold deposit in the Mayo District of the Yukon, and Eagle Royalties is just a royalty company. They hold more than 35 royalties in Western Canada on gold deposits, copper projects, uranium, zinc, what have you, just a number of different metals. But definitely gold is probably their largest focus, and the AurMac royalties that they own are their flagship assets. We'll get into that later, but starting with Banyan, in August, the company put out an updated resource totaling more than 7 million ounces in total between the Airstrip and Powerline deposits at AurMac. And the market cap is 70 million in Canada. So $10 in Canadian dollars per ounce, essentially, if you just round it off. That's what the market is valuing it at right now. And let's just take a look at the latest financials. So this is as of June 30th. Sure, they've spent money on drilling and corporate overhead since then, but probably not a huge amount. They had 18 million in cash as of June 30th, 2024. So 70 million market cap, 18 million in cash, 7 million ounces of gold in the ground. Okay, so that's where I start to look at this and see the potential deep value here. But it's been a rough year for the Yukon. We know what happened with Vic Gold. Obviously, Vic Gold is a shareholder, or was a shareholder of Banyan, and now there's a trustee that's the shareholder. We'll see what happens with that. Obviously, that's been an overhang on the stock, and just it's been a tough year for Banyan shareholders. So that makes it, just to be completely frank, a tax loss selling candidate here at year end. So for some, it's taking a loss for tax purposes to lower their tax liability. For others, it could be a new opportunity, right? And so that's sort of how I see it today. Just to sort of unpack how this discovery story played out over the last 5 years, Banyan, made the discovery at the Airstrip deposit. These two deposits, sometimes I mix the names up because I've always thought of Powerline as the main deposit. It's the one where most of the gold is at. It's been the focus of the company for the last few years, so I kind of sometimes mix them as all Powerline. But no, there's the Airstrip deposit and there's a Powerline deposit. The discovery started at Airstrip in 2019. Then it extended into Powerline 2020, and Powerline has been the focus the last few years, 2021, 2022, 2023. And you can see very clearly that there's this higher grade, the purple domain, averaging above 0.8 grams per ton gold. And it's right up, this purple is right up near surface, at surface, in the center of the Powerline deposit. So Banyan, when they started drilling here, basically, in some of the holes, they were hitting gold 30, 40, 50 meters deep, on these drill holes. And the gold zones are pretty continuous, 100, 150, 200 meters, some of them even deeper than that, right? But you can see this ore body, and you can see the gold is pretty continuous here. It's pretty continuous. It's consistent through a large portion of this deposit. And so they just kept drilling. That's basically been what the last few years have been about at Powerline, is just continuing to step out and expand the boundaries of the deposit. As long as you're hitting, why look anywhere else, right? Go for the highest probability targets and keep building ounces. So that's what they've been doing. But now, and this year you can see the red holes, like, you know, these are 2024 drill collars where the assays are pending in red. You can see that they've spent a lot of time at Powerline expanding to the west, to the east, and they also moved back to Airstrip, and they put a bunch of holes in the heart of the Airstrip deposit, you know, this year. So you got Airstrip almost 1 million ounces at 0.75 grams per ton, and you got Powerline over 6 million ounces at just a little bit above 0.6 grams per ton average. And we got this news release on October 1st, and they're talking about a geophysical survey. Most investors just tune out geophysics, like rock chip samples, geophysics. It's not going to move the share price. Yes, it's not going to move the share price today, but I want to tell you why this is an important piece of news from Banyan. The ZTEM airborne survey is very important because this is a junior mining company. They don't have 100, you know, geos on their team. They don't have hundreds of employees that they can, you know, send out to explore a 200 square kilometer property package, right? This area they focus on, you can see the boundaries, 4,000 meters wide, probably about another 4,000 meters long. So 16 square kilometers, that's been their main focus. But their total property package at AurMac is 234 square kilometers. They also are going to do this airborne ZTEM survey over a further 382 square kilometers, including their Nitro project, right? So they haven't talked a lot about Nitro. Let's see if we can find the map here. Oh, I know you're somewhere. Yeah, they haven't talked a lot about Nitro, but you can see it's very big. And it's somewhere down here. You can't see it on this map. But it's also, you know, it's also right in the heart of this Tombstone gold belt, right? So it's prospective for the same kind of deposits as AurMac, right? So this is going to be really helpful for seeing deeper into the earth. These ZTEM surveys allow for signal penetration through deep cover to identify potential intrusions up to 2 kilometers deep. And also, it can help you find stuff that might just be sitting 50 or 100 meters deep, but in an area that they haven't really explored, and certainly they haven't drilled yet. So this tool, this, you know, survey that's flown with a helicopter with really advanced modern technology, 3D, right? They'll have a 3D full image of a lot of these areas that are covered where there's no outcrop that they haven't really explored yet. They might not even have done sampling work or even mapping in some of these areas. It's a big property package, right? Like, I don't think most people understand how big 234 square kilometers is, especially if you add it all up, it's more than 600 square kilometers. That's enormous. And I don't even know if a $50 billion company like Barrick or Newmont could properly explore a land package this big over a 5-year period, let alone a company like Banyan that's a pretty small, lean junior miner, right? So this ZTEM survey is really important. And Banyan put out this video, by the way. They have a good YouTube channel that's underappreciated. some people signed up today. This was at 76 subscribers earlier today, but there's more views on the video than there are subscribers to the Banyan YouTube channel. So this is a good animation of how these RIRGS gold systems are formed. It's basically very similar way that porphyries are formed. They're basically these kinds of gold deposits are basically porphyry deposits without the copper. Explaining it, but so what happens is this pluton comes up with the molten magma. It intrudes the host rocks, the country rocks, and gold enters into these fractures that form, right? So the gold comes up through these fluid pathways and gets trapped in there, okay? But the Banyan deposit, AurMac, all the gold they've drilled out is in this Hornfels, right? It's in this top part. It's not in the intrusion, right? It's not in the actual heat source, the magma source that came up that injected the gold into these fractures. So they haven't found this part yet. And finding that part could be very valuable because at other deposits like Snowline's Valley deposit, that's where the higher grade gold is. That's where the 2 and 3 gram per ton gold is. And you get these sheeted veins that are just full of gold, essentially, right? So if Banyan has 0.6 or 0.7 grams per ton gold up here in the upper part of the system, what might the grade be if they find the source, right? So that's part of the reason why the ZTEM survey is so interesting. So finding the source intrusion at AurMac, that's very interesting. That could be very valuable, and also maybe finding other deposits across their property package that they're just not able to find with the human eye or just with sampling methods. And obviously you're not going to go prospect over 200 square kilometers with a drill. You'll spend hundreds of millions of dollars, right? It's not effective. So these tools, this modern technology, this 3D ZTEM survey is a very powerful tool to help really narrow down the areas of focus and find new high priority targets across a very large swath of land. So that's why I found this to be very interesting. It's not going to move the stock price today, but maybe the results of this survey, once they're interpreted, could be quite valuable to Banyan and to Banyan shareholders and could work up and lead to drill targets in 2025. And obviously it's nice that the company is so well cashed up now that they don't need to raise later this year, and they have enough funds to continue to explore and come out with their maiden PEA in 2025. So definitely watch this video. It's very instructive. Yeah, so I think I got to everything I wanted to touch upon here. But let's go back to this slide. The drill plan map from the presentation. So they've drilled 19,000 meters so far in 2024. They're probably getting ready to shut down for the season here in the next week or so, but pretty good chance that they got over 20,000 meters done this year. So we have a lot of results coming out throughout the rest of 2024 and probably even into January of 2025. And just notice the drilling this year, they focused here on the western side of Powerline, also on the eastern side of Powerline. So really extending and filling in some of the west and the east here, maybe proving up some of these ounces higher grade and to a higher category, from inferred to perhaps the indicated category for some of these ounces at Powerline. And the same thing with Airstrip. The drilling density here in some of these areas should get them up to the indicated category. And they're filling in some pretty nice holes in this deposit at Airstrip, perhaps get the total number of ounces up at Airstrip, maybe to 1 million or maybe even more than 1 million. But really, they've already got 7 million ounces, right, at these two deposits. So at this point, if they get to 7.5 or 8, they've definitely already got enough. So moving on, and why would I talk about a royalty company in the same video as Banyan? Well, with Eagle Royalties, ER on the CSE, they own royalties on Banyan's AurMac project. And the company is pretty under the radar. In fact, I think I'm the only person that I know who talks about Eagle Royalties. It's just a royalty company, right? So they don't put out a lot of news. There's no hype here. Their flagship asset is the AurMac, royalty that they hold. But the great thing about this company is they're cashed up, right? Like, this company was spun out of EPL last year at 30 cents a share. Stock is down to 10 cents, but they still have $4.3 million in cash in the treasury as of their latest financials. They have a note receivable from some royalties they spun out, or they transacted on in June. So they sold 12 royalties for $3.75 million in June of this year. They received some cash up front, and they're due another $1.25 million in December of 2025. So you add that up, that's $5.5 million. You can see they have no long-term debt, some short-term liabilities. In total, their net cash position is very healthy and not too far away from the current $6 million market cap at 10.5 cents a share. So let's flip through the presentation. Over 35 royalties. When they spun out, they had 50. They sold 12 of their uranium royalties in June for that $3.75 million. They still have over 35 royalties. And you can see their burn rate is about $40,000 a month. So it's $500,000 a year. That's the burn rate. Over $4 million in cash as of June. So they got a lot of runway for corporate overhead. Share structure is pretty tight, with management and insiders owning between 20 and 30%. See Tim Termundi, his family owns 3.7 million shares. The company that spun it out, which is EPL, has 6 million shares. Overall, it's a pretty tight share structure, and most people have an average cost at double the current market share price for ER. So you can see they have a royalty portfolio across BC and Saskatchewan, a lot of different assets. I'm not going to go into all this. It would take me hours to delve into all these. A lot of these are just at the early stage, right? They do not have a resource on them, or if they do have a resource, it's a pretty small one. But these could always turn into something, and especially if they get optioned out and the drill program starts. And you can see ER transacted on 12 of their royalties earlier this year for $3.75 million. So, if they're able to do something similar again, it would obviously be very rewarding for shareholders. But the flagship and the main focus for me is obviously the AurMac royalty. They have royalties on the Airstrip deposit. A portion of the Airstrip deposit has 1% royalties, and a portion of the Airstrip deposit has 2% royalties. In fact, most of the Airstrip deposit is covered by a 2% net smelter royalty. And then you can see at Powerline, basically the northwest portion, about nearly 20% of the pit-constrained resource at Powerline is covered by ER's 1% net smelter royalty. And here's a little bit closer in. And so if we go back to this map in the presentation, you can see, well, some of the areas where Banyan has been drilling here in 2024, the northwest side of Powerline, are in this area that's covered by Eagle Royalties 1% net smelter royalty. And obviously, right here, all these red dots in the heart of Airstrip are also covered by the 2% royalty. So that's quite significant, right? And I believe that this Mayo area of the Yukon will be a gold mining camp in the future. It will be consolidated, most likely by a large company. And these royalties that ER holds could prove to be quite valuable in the future, right? And right now, literally, at a $6 million market cap with 4.28 million in cash, the market is not valuing this very highly, right? So that's where the opportunity is to see value where the market is just, ignoring it. And also to potentially see that, well, there's more royalty areas that could also prove to be something of value. I mean, I think the AurMac project is quite prospective for further, exploration, and I'm sure at some point there will be more discoveries made across this very large land package. So, ER on the CSE, I'm a shareholder of ER. I'm a shareholder of Banyan. Really under the radar, and just not a typical junior mining company because they don't put out a lot of news. They don't have drill programs. They're not doing marketing really. And they have a lot of cash with a low burn rate, and they're not going to be financing anytime soon. So the share structure is what it is. ER and BYN on the TSX Venture. Two under the radar companies that are both cashed up and at very attractive valuations. And maybe they'll get more attractive during tax loss season, but man, really good opportunities here. Thanks for watching and have a powerful week.